My name is Jessica VK, and this is my digital project on Pablo Picasso's painting Guernica. So before we see any images, I would like for you to think of paintings that you usually associate with Pablo Picasso. For me, it's images like these currently on display at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. Portraits full of life, color, personality, and a unique style always tied to Picasso. He's known for his cubist, abstract composition, and unique way of incorporating his subject's personality into the style of his paintings. Here we can see a wide collection of variety of paintings done throughout his life and career, from simple portraits to very abstract studies of the human form, and his play with light, dark, and shapes here. So I like to start off with these images so that when we do see Guernica, we can see the striking difference and complete unique way Pablo Picasso took in expressing the emotion and the sense of sadness and mourning in Guernica. So here is the painting in question. This is Guernica, painted in 1937 by Pablo Picasso. Its medium is house paint, and it was commissioned by the Spanish Republican government for the Spanish Pavilion in the 1937 Paris World Fair. Currently, the painting is on display in Spain, Picasso's home country, but when it was first painted, not only was it exhibited in the Paris World Fair, it was also put on display in a traveling exhibit so that people around the world can see Pablo Picasso's painting of Guernica and feel the expressions and the feelings and emotions that Pablo Picasso wanted everyone to feel through this painting. So the title of the painting is Guernica, which is a city in Spain. The city in Spain is in the Basque region on the northern part of Spain, right along the border of France. Guernica is known for its very picturesque landscapes, its hilly mountainous region, and the very colorful, vibrant city and seaport. Unfortunately, this was the target of Nazi Germany during World War II because of its very nationalistic views. Nazi Germany wanted to use the bombing of Guernica to strike fear throughout the rest of the country. So, unfortunately, Guernica was bombed and completely leveled by Nazi Germany. Here we can see the devastation that the bombings brought. The entire city was leveled and obliterated by the bombs dropped by the airplanes. Fortunately, the inhabitants of Guernica knew that the bombing was coming, so most of them were able to evacuate. There was only a small few number of casualties, but the devastation in the city really struck a chord with everybody, and especially Pablo Picasso. So Pablo Picasso is a painter from Spain. Here we can see 3 self-portraits that he'd completed throughout his life. The largest one on the left is a painting that he completed of himself in 1938, shortly after he completed Guernica, when he was 56 years old. And here we can see he uses the same style that he used to portray the characters in Guernica. On the upper right-hand corner, we can see a self-portrait that he completed when he was 90 years old in 1972. Here we can see the deconstruction of his own face as he's aging. And finally, on the lower right-hand corner, we see a very stark, striking image of Pablo Picasso. Here he is also 90 years old, later on in 1972. Usually Pablo Picasso's images are portraits, self-portraits, and don't usually have a political drive or meaning behind them. But when he chose to paint Guernica, he really wanted to have a big statement piece that would be viewed by millions around the world. Guernica was painted in Pablo Picasso's home and studio in Paris. While he was painting the image, the very large image, he had his 2 closest friends with him the entire time. One of those friends was a very well-known photographer in Paris, and Pablo Picasso relied on his photographer friend for her expertise in black and white imagery, because in stark contrast to his earlier images and also his later images, he wanted to paint Guernica solely in hues of black and white, So all of the renderings on the internet of Guernica will be in black and white, and that's not because of the rendering, it's strictly because he only used black and white in the image. He did not want to use any color. He wanted to be as stark, striking, and grief-stricken as possible. So why did Pablo Picasso pick Guernica as the subject matter for such a large commission? When Pablo Picasso was commissioned to paint this piece, he was starting to get pretty bored with the subject matter that he was thinking of. He was originally thinking of painting something very traditional for Spain, a bull and a bull runner, or something along those lines that didn't really have any full meaning. When he started to hear the news of Guernica happening, he realized that this was his perfect opportunity to really express his views as more of a liberal artist, because before then he hadn't really taken a stance on either side. And when his friends were interviewed, they really built up the anticipation to this piece and really said that this would be Pablo Picasso's one big statement piece and his greatest work of art. And it really paid true to that, as you can see. This painting is also unique for its sheer size because it was exhibited in the Paris World Fair. It was 11 feet and 5 inches by 25 feet and 6 inches. So the sheer size of this image is completely overwhelming and overtaking when you do view it in person. Here we can see the entire piece in its entirety. We see all of the living things in this image have their mouth gaping open, so you can feel the heart-wrenching screams, moans, groans of the people suffering through this war, and who suffered in Guernica during the bombings and throughout the entire duration of World War II. On the left-hand side, we see a mother weeping with her unfortunately deceased baby in her arms. She can no longer provide for her baby, which she usually would with her breast milk. The baby is completely lifeless. Below her, we see what appears to be a soldier with a knife in his hand, and the knife is completely broken. We see a horse screaming in agony. We also see remnants of a bull completely dismembered. We see other faces also screaming in agony, crying for help. And we also see the all-seeing eye above it. And we can interpret this symbol in many ways, but I like to see it as we're all watching this image, we all see this image, and what we take away from it is our own. And what Pablo Picasso was trying to portray in this image is really putting in your face the devastation of war. You can't look away from it, you're faced with it, and the sheer size of this image really strikes you and totally surrounds you with the pain that Pablo Picasso was feeling during this time. There is nothing positive in this image. There is no hope, no color, no glimmer of light anywhere. It's complete darkness in this entire image. To get a real sense of the size, here's where the image is currently on display in Spain, in a museum. We can see the size of people compared to the image. You can't even get too close to it. You have to really step back to get a good sense of everything that you're looking at. It's completely takes over you when you see the image in full black and white. I chose this image to go over for my digital project because when the unfortunate protests and the coronavirus started happening, for some reason I thought of this image and the complete devastation and the sadness and the grief that we're all, I'm sure, feeling right now. And when I see this image, I think of pictures and news clippings and the stream of news that we watch all day on TV. And I see the people and the grief and the pain in the faces of our generation and the youth of today. I see the sadness and the screaming and the crying and the hopelessness in all of their faces that I see here. I see in Guernica. And I feel what Pablo Picasso was trying to say with his image, that it's all-encompassing, it's overtaking, that often it feels like there's no hope and all you can feel is grief and sadness and anger. Picasso encapsulates that in this enormous image that we can see here again. the agony, the screaming, the anger, the frustration that nothing is changing. That's why I chose this, because although it was painted almost 100 years ago, we can still feel that same empathy when we look at this. This was painted when my grandmother was born, and I feel like if she saw this, she would be taken back to that time during World War II, when everybody just felt the complete devastation. So that is my digital project on Pablo Picasso's Guernica. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.